Hello and welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Jadiel, Kabiro. I'm excited that you're here for our usual political conversations. These conversations are simple, truthful. Prof puts them across in a hard-hitting way. Our conversation for today, Prof, I want us to speak about leadership and politics. It seems this is what is ailing Azimio right now. I want to know first what Ruto is doing right on this, but we start with Sabina. Chege goes in an interview in Inoro TV, says they tried to reach Uhuru. Even before elections, they tried to reach him. Some members in Jubilee did not lose because they did not do well. It's just that Uhuru wasn't there. Now we are looking at them trooping to State House, one after the other. Uhuru isn't present in Jubilee. It's as if Azimio has taken over Jubilee. Yes. How do you become a leader there if there is Raila, and you say sometimes it's difficult for Uhuru Kenyatta to become the leader because his former president can't go ahead and say Ruto is not the president? How does leadership play in this kind of scenario?
You know, there are many things, but let's say isolate one or two. And this is that there's no way Uhuru can be directly involved in the politics of this country. Directly. Even when Obama was coming in to play politics and campaign for Joe Biden, he had to be very careful because he was a former president. You have to be very careful. You cannot actively, for example, be in those rallies of Azimio as former head of state, including saying that the man who took over from you was not legitimately elected. You cannot do that. That's dangerous for the country. Now again, then there are leadership styles. What people forget is that Uhuru is a prince. He was brought up as a prince. What happens to princes? Things are done for them.
Okay.
It's people who put an election infrastructure and machinery into place to campaign for Uhuru. And when there was turbulence, there were always people to protect the leadership of the community for him. So he's a prince.
For him.
I was just doing things for him. That's how it happened with the prince. Raila and Ruto, they are villagers. They have to struggle looking for votes. But Uhuru is a prince. He only needs to appear and hold those microphones. And that's all.
Just appear, go home.
Because he's a prince. And people expect Uhuru to be with them every time in the State House. No, he's not. That's a prince. Princes don't behave like that.
You say that.
So his style was different. But in the Kenyan politics is that still at the village level. Where people want to meet Raila, meet Ruto, such. But that's not the Uhuru. And it cost Azimio. It has cost Jubilee because I talked to many people who left Jubilee and joined UDA, especially from Mount Kenya. Very senior people, whom I don't want to mention here. And they say, you can't even reach Uhuru. You call. When you meet him, he greets you and say, we'll talk on phone, then he goes. And you never get that phone. Say, how? Then somebody like me, I can't get through Uhuru Kenyatta. So then they became vulnerable. And the Ruto pounced on them and got them on their side.
How can you deal with such a situation if you're a leader there and you want to remain committed to a cause, but in this cause you feel like you're not being seen, you feel like you're not being heard? How do you remain to such a cause? If you're Sabina Chege, who was in Azimio la Umoja and now seems to be going to Ruto's side? I
have only one message for people like Sabina Chege, Kanini, Kega, and the right, and Jalango. In my estimation, Kenya is going through a revolution. And as usual with a revolution, if you read all revolutions, those dramatic changes in society, many people don't notice. There is that metaphor of slipping through the revolution, well used by Martin Luther King, a short story about Rip Van Winkle, an American short story, of a man who drank and slept for 20 years. 20 years. And he wakes up, America is no longer a British colony. King George is no longer the king of America. And they have had George Washington has become president and so on. That is a metaphor.
Yeah.
Many people don't know when a revolution is in the making. Kenya is going through a revolution. And those who do not notice could become victims. A revolution does not like irritants. The first people that a revolution goes for are irritants. Irritants, I could have been one of them. During the hustler revolution, even the hustler thing was a revolution, I was an irritant.
You call it nonsense.
Yeah. So if you are Sabina, Chege and Jalango, you must know you are joining the list of irritants. Now, a revolution always has two sides. There is status quo, and those the revolution is trying to sweep away from the scene. So the revolution is about those trying to sweep off the old order. So you'll be advised, and I am advising people for free. If you are where you are, stay there. You are safer that way. Just stay there.
So you
and like
it's not about the cost.
About Sabina Chege and how they are going and so on. A young young quoted Lenin. Lenin said in times of a revolution, many people do exactly what Sabina Chege are doing. But Lenin at the same time said, better fewer but better. Better fewer but
better.
So a revolution will always make use of a few who are available.
We're heading.
So when the people go, they don't stop a revolution. The revolution continues. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow, not next year, not the 2027, not the 2032, but this is the period of a revolution in this country. This country is experiencing a rebirth. Whether we like it, nobody can stop it. So it is always advisable to be careful about the moves you make.
Before we continue, if you say this country is experiencing a rebirth, a revolution is coming,
yes.
What would you attribute this revolution to? Because from my feeling is the whole world is going through tough economic times. Yes. Why Kenya specifically, or is it the whole world that is changing?
The whole world is changing. The whole order is changing. Sometimes piecemeal, country by country, region by region, like Arab Springs and what have you. But sometimes, like the new economic order of the 1990s, it's global. The world is going to experience a new order. Violent in some areas, peaceful in others, but change nevertheless.
For Kenya specifically, could it be because of the government that is there, or
and let
is
me
it
correct
just...
you thought before that you ask that question.
Yeah.
Revolutions don't always happen because things are bad.
Yeah?
Yes. In fact, some revolutions, like the French Revolution, even the Russian Revolution, happen when those in power have tried their best to make things good. They have made concessions. They have given in to many things. It's just that you must be aware you are in times that are special. So there is this change. All over, smell the coffee. I tell Kenyans, if you are a politician, smell the coffee.
Which is the right side? I think that is what I was going to ask. Which is the right side to be if you're in Kenya and you're in leadership positions?
You're a politician. It is safe you stay where you are. That's the safest.
Don't be the irritant.
Don't be the irritant. Because people can only move to Ruto. They are not the other way around. So when you say stay where you are, we are actually pointing to two persons. Those with the Azimio people, which is supposed to be the progressive side, the wind blowing to sweep off the old order. You are safer when you are there. Even if you don't do anything. Even if you don't attend many rallies. Even if you don't make noise. You're just there. Those other sides, you are safe. Because there was a contest between, a democratic contest between two sides. And unless you stick yourself out, there's nothing wrong with you. You are just like another Kenya. Nobody even is interested in you. You just were blown off into oblivion, into nothingness.
So your advice is to be like Junet or Hassan Joho?
If you don't want, just skip off. This is my advice. It's very free.
So for people
in the fullness of time, allow me again. In the fullness of time, people are going to say, many of the things I say come to pass. But some stupid boys on Twitter say Manyora doesn't predict anything right. But if you look at it in deeper detail, you see what Manyora was saying was right.
Let's continue with this conversation with the Liberation Caucus that is being formed. There are talks of it within ODM. These ODM rebels want to come up with a caucus called the Nyanza Liberation Movement. I've seen different articles on Nation and the Star. It's as if they are liberating people from the grip of Raila within Nyanza, and from the articles, it seems like the government is sponsoring these rebels. The likes of Ochanda, the likes of Jalango, saying Jalango is the secretary, Bondo MP is the chairman. Of course, they have denied there is, but Shakil Shabir says he has also heard of it. He was part of the leaders that went to State House. When you look at this caucus first, what do you think they can come out with? Because they're trying to say they can take Raila out according to the articles. Is this even possible?
First of all, it's just laughable. Look at the weight of the politicians. These are politicians of no weight. These are small, inconsequential politicians. Secondly, they are not the first from Nyanza to try and go against the grain. To try and stop what they think is Odingaism. They are not the first. They may not even be the last. But they have never gone anywhere. Before this one, there was this Ocheng man.
Yeah.
With his MDG, whatever it is, he thought he can mobilize Nyanza. But he went to ODM to Azimio to be able to be elected again. Before that, there was Kalawasi or Kalawusi of Dalma. Have you heard of a man called Dalmas anymore?
Yeah.
You can't. They were there. Before those, they were Kaliech, Odongo Mamo. They have been there.
Maybe I should ask
what you could just call community, either community traitors, or community wannabes, or just some useless.
You say they are nobodies, but of course they were elected. They were elected. They are elected members of parliament. Of course, they have numbers there. Can they sway the Nyanza region, especially the places where they were elected at?
The question is whether any of them can be re-elected. That's the better question. You cannot be re-elected. Even for Cheng, he had to go align himself with Azimio. He was not going to be elected. He's a good MP. He's my friend. He has done a lot of things for the people. But so long as you go against the people, you are not the first. You see, Nyanza people, the Luo are the most political community in this country. Each has their trait, characteristic. We are not the same. This is a nation. This is a rainbow nation. Not rainbow in that other stupid way. But this is a rainbow nation of many cultures and many people. And there's something that distinguishes us from each other in some special way. Some of them, of course, are stereotyped. But the Luo are the most political people in this country. And you cannot sway the Luo merely because you are flying a flag. This is for my friend, people like Owalo. You cannot sway the Luos merely because they have seen many flags and they have no consequence to the Luos. You cannot sway the Luos because you are distributing food. They ask you, since when did the Luos require food for relief food? That's Owalo again. You cannot sway the Luos merely because you can speak well. There have been Luos like Kaliech who spoke very good. You laugh until you are pained, the ribs want to break. But the Luos did not listen to him. You are not going to sway the Luos politically because you have money. You go there with a helicopter. This is a different community. The Luo are the most political community.
You say they are political, and you've also brought a word, Odingaism.
Yes.
Is it a thing, though? Is it a thing? Is it a thing in Nyanza that...
It's a religion.
That Raila is worshipped in
It's a religion. It's a software. So if you come with hardware against a software, you are wasting your time. Raila has a fanatical following across the country, but more so among the Luos. So you not because you are put on some stupid suit trying to tell Luos, they will just slap you. What are you telling them?
But our conversation is on leadership and politics. What does this mean if you have rebels within the Azimio coalition?
Those are not rebels.
Especially,
those are not rebels.
But that's what Raila called them. He called them
those
traitors.
are not Raila. Maybe doesn't know English, but they are not rebels. These are just wannabes. A rebel is somebody who has force behind him. Who can harass you if you are a government. That's a rebel. Those guys cannot harass anybody. If they pass in Exum, people just laugh.
In terms of leadership,
people don't want to bother about them. They can even just buy them tea. Tell them, you take tea, but please, you are just irritants. See, I come from there and I know. These are not anything.
I'm saying if you're Raila and you have these people making these moves, though, what does that say about your leadership? Because it seems like anyone can do anything they want within the ODM party, and this, I don't think this is the same within UDA.
All parties are like that. All parties have rebellion within them across the world. Even UDA, where the Keter, Alfred Keter, they are there. Where there are people within, if you are looking at the region, which is the Rift Valley region, there are people who voted for Raila. Kalenji. There are people who, Kinabuzeki, who are not with Ruto. There are people, Alfred Keter, who went independent. They are there. They were UDA, but they were smoked out. So there's no party that can say it doesn't have rebellion within. It is normal, because you see, parties bring people together. If two people, man and wife, cannot always smile, then January to do something, how do you expect a gathering of millions of people, everybody will be smiling? It's not possible.
But you said the cartels were smoked out. Is it time for Raila to smoke out?
That is where now people like Raila have to be very careful, and I've told him, because at the end of the day it could cost you. And look at the many votes. I know people are saying it's because of manipulation of the election. I agree with them. But the truth is there's a number of Luos who didn't vote. And the difference between Uhuru, Ruto and Raila, even with the so-called cooked election, was only 200,000. So there's a way in which perhaps like Raila and Kibaki in 2007, if the difference between Raila and Kibaki wasn't just 300,000 shillings, maybe even those who stole Raila's election in 2007 could not have managed. And the same could have been replayed this time. So you want to manage those small little things because they could affect the numbers that finally turn out to vote for you. Especially when you need when there's narrow margin between you and the person who beats you, even if the election is stolen.
Should ODM consider expelling this?
Of course, it should be firm. Parties that survive are parties that sometimes they use the carrot and the stick, but many times when the carrot is becoming irrelevant, you throw it away, give it to the goats, take a stick and beat the human being and tell him get out. The fewer, but better. Lenin, Vladimir. Better fewer,
but better.
And I want to tell you, this country is experiencing a rebirth.
You've said it.
And I only advise people to be careful about how they play their politics.
Finally, we are looking at this caucus.
Yes.
In the articles, they say it is Ruto trying to sponsor this caucus, the liberation of Nyanza. What's your advice to Ruto if he's the one?
If I was Ruto, I will ignore it because it adds a lot of resentment for nothing. You don't gain anything. There's no way you can talk to a Chanda or gender. People are surprised, I'm not surprised, and many of these people, and expect they will give you votes. It's a waste of time. They will not give you votes. The Luos will not vote for you.
But I don't think it's about votes. I think it's more of weakening the Azimio coalition.
You will not do it. Weakening what? So that you can now, they can arrange for you a rally in Ikondele. Those people. Why can't they arrange one rally in Kenyatta Stadium? Well attended. You know, it's a waste of time. Why do you want to irritate people and gain nothing out of it? In fact, let me say this even if your time is up. I have said throughout our electoral politics, no president has had it easier at an election, at re-election than Ruto. For Ruto, it will be the easiest thing to be re-elected. Why? The country is doing so badly. You just need to do something small and people say, why do you think people celebrate Kibaki? Because he took at a time we were so down. He needed to do kitu kidogo to what? Kibaki. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For a dying man, if you gave them half a packet of milk, they can worship you. Because they're dying, they're hungry. So there is so much suffering in this country. If Ruto ignored the IMF and worked on maize flour, unga, 100 shillings, looked at the taxes on oil, on fuel, say petrol, 110. Because all those are government taxes and levies. Remove some. And say VAT is not a discriminative tax. One of the things I read about taxation, it must be discriminative. You must not tax a villager the same way you tax someone staying in Karen. VAT does not discriminate. You buy bread, you pay 16 VAT. A jobless man in Kibra buys bread, says the same 16%. Remove. Because at the end of the day, I've looked. These mandarins are the treasury. Don't tell the president the truth. There is very little money you get from VAT. So the Ruto can abolish VAT. You see?
So he has played...
And I'm saying there's so much the president can do because of the suffering of Kenyans. Na watu waseme, hata hii masomo watu wanasumbuka naye. Aseme we have assessed the situation. We'll give you free education.
So comparing him with Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, he's doing well politically in terms of leadership. But when you look at the country though...
He's not doing well. At the end of the day, leadership and the economy, politics and the economy are so intertwined. If you don't play one, you'll be brought down. If you think you can be such a smart politician when people are going to bed hungry, you're just a joker.
Then as we wind up, I just have this one. President Uhuru Kenyatta, you say in his leadership he's a prince, but yes, he also managed to stay in power for 10 years.
Yes.
What would you describe that as? Because some politicians say they could not get in touch with him. Remember the talks about in 2017 that he also he told them, I'm the president, he doesn't need them, but then called them again and they still supported him for
prince.
a year.
How many times did even the Jubilee Party, or even before TNA and whatever you call, how many times did they meet PG? Almost none. They only met when he was sacking people.
So people
Uhuru was a prince, and there's always an infrastructure in place.
Oh.
Let me tell you something else, apart from Uhuru being a prince. And this is something which Kina Raila Odinga don't know. The Kikuyus, the Gema people, they love power so much. Power is so sweet to them. They are willing to leave nothing unattended. The way the Somali approach jobs in the public service. One Somali getting a job is like all Somalis getting it. They put everything in it. Kikuyus will put everything in pursuit for power of their own. That's why, as dull and as almost useless as Kibaki was, the Kikuyus ensured he was there. When his president was threatened after he rubbished the MOU with Raila, it is Kikuyus who moved to protect that president by bringing the Nyachais, the other people, Kanu Kinakoech. Not Kibaki. Kibaki just hacha yende. So that's what Kina Raila needs to know. That they are facing opponents whose leadership in infrastructure is created by a whole community. Tell him which Kalenjin was not involved in the Ruto campaign as a matter of life and death. As a matter of life
and death.
Tell him which Luo was involved in Raila's election. Not even as a matter of life and death. Just involved. Even saying, since I'm a millionaire, let me give Raila Odinga 10 million.
But you call them the most political tribe, though.
They are political. They think siasa kwa kuongea. Lakini power is beyond talking. Because power is sweet and it concedes nothing.
Good place to wrap up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This has been a conversation of leadership and politics. In case you don't know why things are as they are, I hope you know now. Till we do talk again, have yourself a lovely rest of your day.